Today I'm going to talk about what it takes to be an EMT and or fire and or if you decide to go the nursing option from EMT. EMT basically is emergency medical technician. They also have EMR, which is emergency medical responder, which is basically you have your different levels. If I could show you on here. Okay, so right there's the EMR I'm talking about, the first medical responder. There's the EMT, if that's what you're going for. Advanced EMT basically means the only difference is some states have it, some states don't. The only difference is you can be an EMT and you can do needles and stuff. And then you have paramedic that can do full medications and everything that requires, some serious 2 years. The EMT, I think, is an extra 12 months or so. The EMT is just 1 semester. And EMR, I think you can do EMR online. I'm not entirely sure. And of course, all of these you have to do CPR first, which basically all that CPR is saying you can revive a person. That's what's always going to be. It's going to be your breaths. It's going to be giving manual CPR to a person. Learning the authorities, going from there. These people. So if you're an EMR, you have to pass on to an EMT. You have to go down the line. So EMT passes on to AEMT or paramedic. It's required by law. So if you're a paramedic, you can't pass off to an EMT. That's considered, a law violation. And you're going to pay hefty fines for that. As far as my experience at the EMT class, it's hard. It's difficult. The class is usually a percentage of the exams. The exams are usually 6. They're broken up into different sections. You got airway, which is basically your upper body, your head, and all these other things. Then you got you got airway, you got trauma, you got babies, which are completely different because their bodies are different. You have cardio, and there's a couple other ones. It's been a while since I've actually done it. I actually did pass the EMR, the EMT, the National Registers for the EMT. It's quite difficult. The test is usually pass or fail, and you don't know for about 4 days. Given on their current workload. Either it's going to set you back and have to do it again, or you're going to pass it and you're going to be, congratulations, you are now an EMT in whatever state you're in. That's always a great moment, or paramedic, whichever one you're taking. Have I taken the paramedic? I was going to. And I decided not to because there was a lot of medical exams to enter the program because they want to know your blood levels and what you can more likely get and what you least likely can get. So the tests are very expensive to get into paramedic. That's also something to note. So if you're already an EMT and you're thinking about paramedic school, there is that. The cost is quite a bit when I did it. It depends on the college and stuff, but they will want to know that unless I think you can sign a waiver, but I'm not entirely sure. It probably varies from school to school. But that cost is going to be kind of heavy, especially since the regular clinics can't do it. And usually, basically, what they're doing is they're taking blood out and they're testing you for all these diseases to see if you can handle it, how far you can handle the disease. Great to know in the field. Is it actually useful as a student? I don't know. Like I said, I didn't enter the program because the cost was kind of heavy. But I did try the fire program, which is a good thing to know. You have to get your EMT license first. That always comes first, and you have to have that no matter what program you go through. You have to always have the CPR course done with, and it's not that difficult. Usually it can be done within an afternoon. It's not that hard. And then you get EMT, usually a semester. I don't know how long the EMR takes because my state doesn't offer it, and the advanced EMT, we don't offer that in my state. But we do offer EMT and paramedic. Paramedic is the most advanced level you can get with either fire or... And fire school is going to be just as hard. Fire school is, it depends on the school. I've seen as much as 5 days a week, every morning. And I've seen 3 days a week, 8 hours. And I've seen 2 days a week with 1 full day on a weekend. And they are very intensive. The course is very difficult. It's going to make you stop and, because they're training you to be an EMT. Usually the pounds are you usually have to carry about 100 pounds, including the bunker gear. And always something to note, they will test you on the bunker gear. Putting on the bunker gear and taking off the bunker gear. And usually they do a test. See how fast you can put on the bunker gear and take the bunker gear off. They will do a lot of tests. But also something to know is when you enter the program, you will be given this. Well, you'll have to buy it. The Essentials of Firefighting. And then there's a little handbook. This is the worksheet. These are all my EMT books from past class. That's for the exam. The exam is very hard, so always studying it before and then taking it after you pass the EMT class. There's flashcards. I got the flashcards. There's a lot of signs and symptoms because it's all remembering by the book. What is this? What is this? They're so similar. It's very, very easy to get them mixed up. Very, very close. Most of the time, it's one symptom. The matter of one symptom. Let's say, they're having a runny nose and have dry eyes. Not necessarily that can cause a whole bunch of things. So usually it's the difference maker of one or two things. Usually the blood pressure, or maybe their fatigue, or maybe how you find them, or something like that. So back to the fire program. The fire program, when you first start, they're going to test you. You have to pass the test. I think my state said you had to pass it in 7 minutes. And I passed it in 6 minutes and 55 seconds. But if you don't pass it in that 7 mark, you have to do it again. Not saying that, usually people can do it in about 5 or 6 minutes, but if you haven't trained for it, it's something definitely to consider to start getting physically fit, because they will test you. As far as the actual program, I talked about the intensive physical agility. You have to be physical. You have to be, they like on time. They like you to be clean shaved and everything. That's something big to know. And you can't be hiding anything from them. If you're hiding something from them, they're going to figure it out. This is the, EMR, EMT, National Register for EMTs. They're going to find out about it because you have to submit an application for them and they do a background check. It's like everything else. It's best to not hide anything from them, especially since they're going to do a polygraph. They're going to do a police investigation on you to make sure you're telling the truth. And if you're lying, there's a whole nother thing. You're, lying to, the police department. For me, it's, the sheriff's department. Because they do all the background checks. And then something big to know is they will test you on the material. Usually it is about, my program had 22 exams or quizzes, whatever you want to call them, and 2 finals. And the finals, they actually have somebody come out and make sure that you are adequate to move on to the next part. And they're broken up into 2 sections. The first section is the physical bookwork. From there, so you will take 22 quizzes. That's what my state had. And usually they're once every week. And you might have 3 days to study. You have to know all this information and pass, because they require you to get 70% on every single last one of them. And if you fail one, you're given 2 chances, and then they kick you out of the program. And that's something big. And then you get the maximum of 2 redos. That's what my state had. And then they throw you out of the program anyways. So they definitely play hard to get, for sure. It's a very intensive program. And then to actually move on to the EMT or the Fire 2, which is the more intensive, actually physical, doing all the fires and doing the extracting people and all that. You have to pass the book work, which they say on the first time, usually it's about 50%. That's what was my college rates were, which weren't great, because it's just difficult. People come out and test you on all the work and stuff, and some people just can't do it in the first try. Same with the EMT National Register. It's a very intensive exam, and usually if you don't take it right then and there after you pass the class, usually that's the best chance you got. If not, you're not going to study afterwards, and it's just going to do worse. Some people do better after it. Doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means taking it when you first get out, because it's fresh in your mind, usually leads to better results. And if you can't pass it, Fire 2, when you get to Fire 2, they're going to require it, the National Register for EMT, or your state, and then you're gone too, and you have to wait until the next term because you didn't take the exam and pass it. So that's a big thing too. When you come up on the next thing is, then the next solution is when you go for job interviews. So let's say you pass both of them, you pass all their exams and everything. Now you have to interview with the departments, and my state actually had 3 job interviews with 3 different people, because they just want to make sure you're legit. They want to make sure you're a right fit. These people are not quick about hiring anything. But if you decide to go EMT, if you say maybe let's go EMT and start working in a private. The thing about private, not a lot of people like it. Be totally honest. Usually the thing for private is low pay. They don't get paid as much as a regular EMT fire person. Not even close. Usually people are like, why do we go to school for this if you're just going to do that? So like I said, the pay's not very good. You don't get to do as much action as you did in school, especially with the ride-alongs and stuff because they require it. So there is that too. It's mostly like nursing home calls and calls that you necessarily don't, still somebody has to do it, but not always the calls that you are kind of looking for. Not saying that other people don't go to interesting calls, because they do. But in this state, it was because I tried out for it. And the place that I went to was private, and they required a test to see how educated you were with the actual material, which was completely different. So, on top of passing the National Register and then doing all this, then they give you another exam. What would you do in this, and what would you do in this? So it's like, it's very time consuming. As far as the hospitals, usually the hospitals require a little more experience. It's just like everything else. They require you to go to school and come out and then work and then go to work for them after 3 years or something. So that's the really bad part. That really sucks. Now the nursing option, excuse me for a minute. The nursing option, the EMT to nursing, I don't know too much about. I usually, the nursing option, you go from EMT and you basically jump up a little bit. So the basic foundations of providing medical assistance to someone, and you go from there. Now, I personally hadn't done that or known anyone that did that, because usually when you're in EMT class, you want to be fire, you want to be paramedic, you want to be, because everyone is a progression from on. The nursing program, the EMT to nursing, is kind of like it's reset, is what I kind of think of it as. You are kind of going to learn something as EMTs, but you're not going to really learn what it takes to be a nurse, if that makes sense. So you're going to learn the basic foundations like you are in CPR, but you're not going to really use the EMT license if you become a nurse, because you're going to get these nursing licenses. But the EMT, when you go fire, and everything's different. Nurses are in the hospital. Nurses work after the person has been greeted and taken to the hospital. EMTs have to be prepared for the worst. They have to be prepared for anything. And they teach you that. You have to be prepared to walk up on a scene and expect the unexpected. That's the biggest thing, is knowing what to say, being a public speaker, not saying the wrong thing, not being, too aggressive or anything, being kind, friendly, assuring the person that you're there to help them. That's a big thing. But your safety is number one priority, obviously. So there is that. There are big differences. They're like two different fields. So there is that. That usually will use it. Not saying you won't use it in nursing. You will use it, but you're not going to use it as an EMT would use it, as you're going to be trained as an EMT. You're going to be trained to, as an EMT, you're going to be trained to assess everything in front of you in any given situation and go from there. And nurses do that, but they don't do that on the level of a frontline person does, because they just get handed the person. They do it in the hospitals. They, when somebody walks into the, center, I have a problem. They're gonna do their same thing, but they already know the conditions. Hospitals are very secure and very what's the word? Maybe the environment doesn't really change is the word. And one day it's not going to be, snowing inside, and the next day it's going to be raining inside. Or, one day there's a tree on the road or something, and the next day there's electricity in the sky. Both of those have different, precautions. So it just varies from, field to field. But EMT is going to teach you that. Fire is going to teach you how to be a fireman, how to save lives, how to help other people. It's the advancement of that. And usually when you go on the fire department, they're going to hire you for a fireman or a firefighter, if you want to call it. And then you get either moves the ambulance later on, depending on the station. It just depends on the station, what they need. And because usually the people that get paid more are the ambulance people. I don't know, who decides that, but it just is what it is. So you have to start somewhere, and you go from there. Now, I've already talked about the program's hard. Both programs are hard. Nursing is hard. EMT is hard. Firefighting is hard. They're all difficult. They all require different classes that you're never going to use, like chemistry, or anatomy and physiology. You're going to use it. Anatomy, yeah, you're going to use it. Chemistry, probably going to use it in nursing a little bit, not so much. But it takes a toll to remember every single muscle, every single bone, every single exam, to be ready for the exams, take the exams, to be confident on the exams, and then go to the next one and do all these interviews after you just did one. But don't let it throw you off guard. You can achieve anything that you set your mind to.